Let's talk to the business secretary, Andrea Leadsom, who joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. Now, you're announcing a brand new law that's going to come into place in April, which provides a new legal right to paid parental bereavement leave. And I think most people will be absolutely shocked to discover what they're legally entitled to right now.
Well, yes, I'm sure people will be, but today's announcement is very welcomed. We're calling it Jack's Law after Jack Hurd, who very sadly died before his second birthday and whose mum, Lucy, has campaigned tirelessly for this type of bereavement leave because her then husband was only entitled to 3 days of bereavement leave, and one of those had to be taken for the funeral. So it's absolutely right that parents who suffer from the death of a child or indeed from a stillbirth have the chance to grieve properly, and that's what we're announcing.
Well, indeed, I mean, this is just about being a decent employer, but unfortunately, some of these things do have to be put into law. And 2 weeks paid leave under that law that you're bringing in will make a huge difference to parents who, I mean, going through, let's face it, the most awful, worst thing that could possibly happen to you.
Well, I think that's right. And many employers are much, much more generous than that. And we do encourage employers to think of this as a statutory minimum. Many employers will put in place all sorts of support for their employees. But at the same time, what this does is it sends a signal that this is an incredibly difficult, emotional, tragic experience for anybody to have to suffer, and that employers can actually get a lot of help. Just the other day, I was at SANS, the perinatal bereavement charity, with Lucy Hurd, Jack's mum, and we were talking there about the support and advice and training that they put in place for employers about how to let the parent, the bereaved parent, decide when they come back to work whether they want all the staff to be told before they get back to work, or whether they want to get back to work and then tell people in their own time. Because, of course, it really does change your life. This isn't just life as getting back to work as normal. This is a whole new experience for you.
Indeed. And I think most people were shocked as well. I believe that the number of parents who could each year be affected by this, 10,000 parents each year, some 7,500 child deaths. I have to say, I think this is very, very much a good move and long awaited. Right now, let's turn our attention to a new law. It's coming into force in April, as you've just been hearing. It follows a campaign by Lucy Hurd, whose son Jack sadly died just before his second birthday after he fell into a garden pond in August 2010. Lucy Hurd has been campaigning with Jack's Rainbow, a campaign to call on the government to give parents who've been bereaved 4 weeks paid leave. Well, earlier we spoke to Andrea Leadsom, the business secretary, who's called new legislation coming into effect in April, Jack's Law, and it's going to mean that people who are bereaved by their children, not 4 weeks paid leave, but 2 weeks paid leave, but it's far more than the current statutory minimum, and this will apply to both fathers and mothers. Well, let's talk to the mother behind this now, Lucy Hurd, who joins us. Good morning to you, Lucy.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is an extraordinarily courageous and brave thing to have something, to campaign for something good to come out of just the most awful thing that could happen to any parent, which is to lose a child, as you did with your son Jack 10 years ago now. You wanted 4 weeks paid leave. You've got 2 weeks. Are you satisfied with that?
I am, but considering there was nothing in place. So you mentioned about change in statutory law. There was never any law. So if an employer turned around to you and said you couldn't take time off to grieve, then there wasn't a law in the land to protect you. So this legislation is incredible. It's a good foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think many people will be absolutely astonished to discover that people didn't have any statutory right to actually have time off work and to have it paid at a time when they're... I don't think any of us could imagine what it must be like. And the idea that you'd be able to even function going into work, but also at a time it's very difficult for the family to risk losing your job if you didn't go in, and just losing the pay that, just to keep a roof over your head at such a difficult time.
Well, everybody deals with grief differently. There is no right way. There is no wrong way to deal with grief. We're all unique on this with bereavement. But what I'm pleased to say is that hopefully now that if anything tragic happens like that within a family, that they will be able to go to their employer and say, I need to take time off, and not have to have the worry of them turning around and saying, take it as sick leave, take it as holiday leave, or take as much time as you need, but actually it's gone in your sick record, so you're going to lose your work. So when I started this out, I had to make a positive in Jack's memory. It was always about making something good out of something so horrible. I miss him every day. That'll never change. But it was about, I suppose, creating Jack's legacy. And I was completely overwhelmed when I found out that it was going to be called Jack's Law. I had no idea. And I just cried and cried because it's bittersweet. I said, I'd much rather him be here with me now.
Oh, of course, absolutely, of course. No, but this is the thing: is this is ultimate in empathy for other parents. You didn't have it, but knowing that you've done something to help other parents go through this. And again, I think these statistics are absolutely shocking. I think so many people just have no idea how commonplace this is. There are around 7,500 child deaths every single year, including around 3,000 stillbirths. Some 10,000 parents every year affected by this and could benefit from this policy. That's a lot of people at the worst time in their lives who are going to be helped, and that is down to you and your son.
I feel really humbled. It sounds really daft, but because I was just one voice, and there were so many doors that I knocked on and that said, no, you won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do it. And the more I was like, come on, we've got to do this. We've got to make a change. And I just kept moving forward and carrying on and kept knocking on businesses, MPs. It didn't matter. We need to get this looked at. We need to ensure that we break down the taboo around grief and bereavement. And we also need to start talking about that a little bit more, especially within workplaces and schools and just in general life. It should be just as easy to say, when you say, I've got the flu, we shouldn't be so worried about talking about grief and bereavement.
No, indeed. And again, just doing the right thing. I know of an employer who had an employee who lost a child at 6 months, and he ended up giving him, I think, 2 or 3 months of paid leave, because he said, I just wanted him to do what I want. I would want my own boss to do for me. And just being human and understanding that how could you possibly, for some people, obviously, it will be getting up and sort of going through the motions of going to work, maybe how they get through things. But for other people, they find it impossible.
It's a catching disposal. So if people want to use it, they can do. There are some amazing companies out there, and they have been very supportive along all of this. And it's not all been horror stories, but there have been a lot of horror stories about how people were treated. And that's what it was all about. I just had to make sure that nothing horrible would happen, and I will build on this. This is a good foundation. And I said, I hope that it can be for everybody one day, but this is just incredible.
Yeah. And it's all down to your hard work. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful tribute to your son Jack's life that you've managed to do this for other parents going through such an awful experience and turning something so awful into something sort of a bit easier for other people. So I have to say, I absolutely applaud you for that. Lucy Hurd, thank you so much for talking to us, a mother of Jack Hurd, who very sadly died back in 2010.